Hey Will, I was recently promoted to sell to enterprise level accounts, and my manager told me I need to start doing better research if I'm going to be successful doing account-based prospecting. I'm not even sure where to begin. Can I get a little help? Greg.
Great question, Greg. I absolutely love this topic. Account-based prospecting used to only be used by elite enterprise sellers, but because of its effectiveness, it's becoming a really popular strategy regardless of the size of your prospect. You see, in B2B sales, you have to realize you're selling into a business or an account. And yes, there are people at that account. And while you may be reaching out to one person at the account, the ultimate decision is going to be made by a group of people or a committee. The future of prospecting takes the entire account into account. There are two parts that we have to talk about when we're talking about account-based prospecting. There's the first part, and that is understanding the various members of the buying committee that you'll actually be reaching out to. And the second is the personalization process that goes into connecting with those individuals, especially via email. First, let's talk about mapping out the various members of that buying committee and the folks influencing them internally. B2B buying isn't done by individuals, it's done through committees. Whether those committees are defined or not, they exist. And that's why it's so important for sellers to know who's in these committees, the different roles they play, and how to approach each role before starting the outreach process. Every person in the buying committee can be classified as either above the line or below the line. The line is this imaginary line that separates two distinct groups of people in any organization. People above the line, they're your decision makers, typically C-suite, VP, directors, and even sometimes managers. They control the money. But it's a mistake. It's a mistake to only think about them in your outreach. Just because they may have final say on whether a deal goes through, that doesn't mean they're the ones feeling the direct pain that your solution solves. They're also the hardest people to get a hold of. Many times the people below the line are better individuals to reach out to. They are your end users. They can tell you a lot about what's going on at the account, and they're equally as important because they have more influence than ever in the decision that the people above the line are going to ultimately make.
Wait, prospecting multiple people within the same company? I usually just email the decision makers. Plus, SDRs and AEs are busy selling. They don't read sales emails. Plus, how do you even automate that?
Well there, Greg, the short answer is you don't, especially not if you're closing enterprise deals. The reason we use account-based prospecting instead of blindly sending mass emails to hundreds of contacts is so that we can take the time to gain a point of view on the prospect's business and show them that we're putting in the work to get to know their business. Without a legitimate point of view on how you can uniquely help them, you're just another spam email. That's where personalization is going to come into play.
I'm just a frontline sales rep. What perspective can I bring to a VP?
You're not just a seller. You're a customer's first human interaction with your company. We'll get into that in a second, but Greg, first, let me see how you'd go about personalizing it.
Hey Jan, really great to see your path to VP of sales at Companyly after starting as a sales rep 4 years ago. Lavender gives sales managers the ability to coach their reps based on individual insights unique to their emails. That would help level up your lowest performers to the same level as your highest performers. Worth a chat?
Okay, you're getting warmer, but when we talk about personalization, it's not just a line of text that lets the reader know that it was only sent to them.
Oh.
It's not how we personalize. That's what we call kind of checking the box or fake personalization. There's no context or point of view. You just simply found a little fact on them and inserted it, and then proceeded to just kind of talk about what your product does. At no point was there a point of view that was unique to them or their business to truly personalize. You have to have a point of view on their business that typically requires multiple aspects of research coming together. As you work your way to the top of the organization, that bar for what qualifies as unique gets higher and higher. So when you're going after an account, there's the initial research of who you should be talking to. Then you have to pull together multiple layers of information that might be relevant to each of them. Things like what they do, the size of the company, the tools they use, roles they're hiring for, recent news about the company, or news in their market, public comments from members of their team, their own personal experience. All of these things should come together as layers. Don't make them stand on their own. Then you should be using these layers below and above the line. When you reach out below the line, those third-party layers, the ones you find externally, they can be used to showcase that you're looking to build a unique connection. You can then use what you learn from those folks below the line to gain additional information, bring that above the line to showcase an even more unique point of view on their business than what any other rep could create from only looking externally. So instead of using a generic statement that has little to no relevance to the prospect's problems, try something like this. Hey Jan, Sarah mentioned the SDR team has been struggling to personalize and touch enough accounts quickly. As I'm sure you know, things have evolved since you were on the front lines 4 years ago. Being a VP of sales, you're likely looking for ways to ensure your SDRs are as efficient as possible. Lavender users send personalized emails in less than 5 minutes on average. Worth seeing if we can do the same for you. You see how much more personalized that was? We had a unique observation. Sarah mentioned the frontline sellers have been struggling to personalize and touch enough accounts quickly. And then we tied that to specific research about them. And then we tied it all back to a point of view on the business and how we can impact it.
Yeah, but who's Sarah?
See, now you're starting to ask the right questions. You see, because we're no longer sending mass emails with fake personalization to a list, we're now hyper-targeted and focused on specific accounts. This allows us to reach out to the various people within that company. In this case, Sarah would have been a below-the-line employee that we reached out to prior to sending this message to Jan, the VP. But we weren't reaching out to Sarah with the intent of selling her. Remember, she doesn't control the purse strings anyway. We reached out to Sarah to see what her struggles were, to gain a perspective on how we could help. We then took that information and we layered it with additional observations to create a clear context for that VP on why we're reaching out and that we have a valid reason for showing up.
Okay, so I should have a different strategy for reaching out to each person based on their role in the company?
100%. You need to think of personalization as a research process. It isn't a box to check, remember? What matters to that VP of sales likely wouldn't resonate to their VP of marketing.
I guess that explains my 2% reply rate. But doesn't this take a long time?
It really shouldn't take much time at all. You should know the typical players you see in accounts based on their size, and with that, you can create your process. A few questions for you. What do you do, Greg? No, seriously, what do you do?
We help salespeople write better emails faster.
Okay. What problem does that solve?
Well, most salespeople send long, non-relevant mass emails because they think it's more efficient and they don't know how to craft a proper email. So our tool helps them become better email writers so they can send individual emails that get more replies and win more deals.
And who does that solve problems for?
Wow, well, I suppose it solves problems at all levels of the organization. For salespeople, it helps them close more deals. For managers, it helps coach and onboard salespeople on best practices based on their unique data. For VPs, it gives them insight.
Exactly. You see how your answers started to shift as you talked about the different players within the account? The more segmented you can be and crystal clear in your understanding of those nuanced persona, the better off you're going to be.
Got it.
Oh, and this is only the start of that segmentation, right? You also need to ask yourself what indicated to you that your prospect had any of these problems in the first place.
Ah, I see what you did there. If I find out they're hiring, or if they use a different tool, the problems we solve only become more nuanced. So if I don't do my research and have a valid reason for reaching out, I can never really know the answer to that question. Eh?
Eh?
Okay, so what you're saying is personalization isn't just finding something about the person and inserting it into an email to let them know it's not a mass email, and I really need to find a real problem they face, then tie the personalized message into that problem in my outreach?
Exactly.
But how do I find those problems?
You build out a process for each persona. You need to figure out what indicates that each persona is dealing with a problem you solve. And you need to have a repeatable path to finding that information. An organized process is one where you know where you're going, what order you're going there, what you're looking to find, and knowing how to use it all once you find those different layers in your research. It really shouldn't take you long. And if you take good notes while you do your research, each person you research within the account will start to go faster and faster.
I'm guessing this will take some practice, but it definitely helps. Thanks, Will.
100%. And that's it. Come back next time when we dip into the mailbag once again. And if you've got questions on anything email related, shoot them over to emailfeedback@lavender.ai.